I'll start the recording then. This way you can press your got it buttons. Feel like we haven't done this in a while. You know, Neil, what I decided after Passover, I'm going to start doing this live and on Zoom because if someone wants to get out of their house, I'm going to give them the chance after Passover.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Even if only 2 people show up, I'll still do it both. It'll be hybrid. Oh, there's Bernice.
Yay.
It is in person.
Yeah, and Joan, very nice.
After Passover, we're gonna do these in person.
Marilyn just had a birthday. Happy
Oh,
birthday.
Marilyn, is that
Yes.
true?
Yes, I'm
Happy
getting
birthday.
younger in spirit, but older in years.
Oh, no, you, Arizona's the fountain of youth. You're gonna be your youthening.
Well, the kids decided that since we didn't have a big reunion for this birthday, which was a big one, maybe we wouldn't wait till the next big milestone if this thing ever leaves us.
John,
Never wait. Here, never wait.
By the way, that shooting in Pittsburgh, was that on the north side?
Yeah, yes.
I
In
was sort of
Northeast,
looking
yeah.
in the paper, yeah.
Yeah, it happened on Saturday morning, so the news kind of broke at 10 a.m. It happened the night before during services. So I got some alerts during services, but it already happened by then. So it's
Well, it was
We
on the
take it
news,
away.
but it didn't say where it was.
yeah,
This morning, they said something about the north side.
Airbnb party with 200 people. Yeah. Okay, it's 7:02. Fine. Let's start here. I'm going to make it quiet real quick, but you can always unmute yourselves if you need to. Here we go. Then I'm going to talk to Neil because it's Neil's baby. So Neil, how you doing tonight?
Neil's doing great.
Okay, good.
Got my
Good.
feet up. Life is good.
We're going to study. Wait, do you have any? Oh, do you want opening announcements or ending announcements or
I
both?
just have one announcement. Don't forget, or 2 announcements. On Wednesday is the 9 Jews.
Oh, Wednesday's the 9 Jews, right? Yep, we have 3 adult dads in 3 days. This tonight, Wednesday morning is Talmud, and then Wednesday night is the 9 Jews.
And then the following weekend is the Intro to Judaism, right?
That's right, Sunday. Is this coming Sunday is intro?
This
I think-
Sunday. Intro?
No, is it? Wait, no, it is this Sunday because Yontiv is Friday, Saturday. So yeah, so we have I think 4 or 5 adult dads in this week.
And then Sarah's class on the Talmud is on the Torah is the following weekend.
Very nice. If you
Just want to let everybody know, we've got lots of really good stuff that's going to be starting towards the end of May and into June. We've got some really good speakers lined up. And another really interesting, great question is coming up in June, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wait, let me get rid of my live transcript here, hide subtitle. Okay, good. All right.
So I got-
Okay, then I'm gonna get started, Neil. Okay, so here's the deal. Okay, let me mute. Here, so you do have the ability to unmute. You know, with what is it, 19 squares, I'm probably gonna leave it in my form in gallery, but if you really need to see a big me, you can go to speaker view. If the live transcript is bothering you, this is in English, a little harder when it's a service, but in English, the live transcript may work for you. If it disturbs you, go to the bottom of your screen. You'll either find a CC live transcript button, or in your 3-dot more button, you'll find hide subtitle, and you can get rid of them if it bothers you. I am recording this for anyone who falls asleep. And if you haven't done one of our tough questions before, I kind of ramble on for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then we open it up for questions. I try not to go past an hour, and that even includes the 5 minutes we start late, and because my bedtime is 8 o'clock. So here it goes. Are you ready for the soul? The first thing to understand is I don't know what a soul is. I was having this conversation with Amy. She's like, I know what a soul is. I go, where's your soul? Tell me what a soul is. Everyone wants to think they have a soul. We watch, the show Lucifer. Oh, they lost their soul. They sold their soul to the devil. Oh, a soul is what makes you who you are. You have are you a good person, a bad person? I said, some dogs are nice and not nice. Do they have souls? Yeah, everyone wants a soul, but no one knows what it is or where it is. So we're going to talk about the soul, some ideas of where it comes from and what does it do. So what is it? Where is it? And what does it do? The what? So the two things that when you talk about a soul, S-O-U-L, is that many people would say the soul is that thing that lives on after we die. Right? So the body dies, the soul lives on. So it's something eternal, possibly. It's also, number two, that thing that makes us who we are. The soul is what makes us who we are. How are we all different? We all have fingernails and eyeballs and noses, but our souls are what makes us different. There are three biblical words in the Bible that are used for the soul today: neshama, nefesh, and ruach. Neshama, nefesh, and ruach. There's a lot of other terms. The Kabbalists have like 10 words for the soul, but we're going to focus on these 3 words right now: neshama, nefesh, and ruach. First one, neshama. It comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 7, very early on, Adam and Eve. How does God make a man? How does God make a first person? God takes some earth, like Play-Doh, and makes a form of a person, and then blows, B-L-O-W, blows air, divine breath into this golem, into this clay figure, and it becomes a person. And it says in Genesis 2, verse 7, and God blows a breath of life into the man of earth and dust. Neshama means breath. And also for today could also mean soul. So the breath of God, that piece of God that's within us, the breath of God, the air we breathe, that's something inside of us. Okay, so that's one. Neshama, which could mean soul, comes from the word breath or breath of God when God made Adam, as in Adam and Eve. Number 2, nefesh. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 3, okay, so it's a little later on in Genesis. And God said, my breath, ruchi, okay, from ruach, okay, will not govern man forever since he is flesh. Ruach, what does it also mean? If anyone who knows their Hebrew, ruach means wind. Okay, so you could say someone's soul, their ruach, when we were in USY, like, we've got ruach, yes, we do. And what we're saying, we've got spirit, right? Yeah, we've got ruach. But what is ruach? Ruach is wind. Again, a little more air. We got neshama, the breath of God. We got ruach, the wind of God. Spirit, more air. Number 3, let's do nefesh. Leviticus. Okay, Leviticus chapter 17, verse 11. The life, the nefesh of the flesh is in the blood. So don't eat blood because the life is in the blood. The nefesh is in the blood. Nefesh is another word for soul in Hebrew today. Nefesh meaning being, to be, as being. What makes us alive, the beingness of it all. So our lifeblood is our nefesh, but nefesh could also mean soul. So Kabbalah, to understand all of these issues, nefesh, neshama, ruach, is all about that godliness within us, that spark, that divine light, that breath of God. What is the soul for Kabbalah, the Jewish mystics? It's the spark of godliness. And according to the Kabbalists, everything has a soul, not just humans. Everything has a soul, according to the Kabbalists. Now, you have been through, at least a few of you have been through like 14 of my classes. So you've heard this term before. So maybe you're the first person to come to my first class. And it goes like this. It's called Tzimtzum, T-Z-I-M-T-Z-U-M, Tzimtzum. Great word. What is Tzimtzum? When God made the world. Again, the Kabbalists love creation. When God made the world, God filled the whole universe. God's big. God filled the whole universe. So God wants to make the world. God wants creation. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, but there's no room for heaven and earth because God fills everything. So God contracts God's self. It's the great contraction. That's called Tzimtzum, great word. And so the world we live in, the universe we live in, has the residue of God everywhere. Therefore, there's a spark of the divine in everything, not just every human being. Every blade of grass has a soul. Every doggy has a soul. Every brick has a soul. The idea is that God is within everything because at one point, God filled everywhere. So the idea that everything has a spark of godliness. And those who took my Kabbalah class, we talked about what is evil. Evil is, everyone has that spark of godliness, but how is there a shell blocking it? So animal, plants, do all dogs go to heaven? Do dogs have a soul? According to the Kabbalists, they do. What is a soul? That's another question. But yeah, and that was another sermon I gave on the high holidays. So if we have a soul and it's somewhere inside of us, where is it? Where is the soul in you? Okay, I've got a soul. And if I asked my 20 squares where the soul is, most of you would probably point here. Oh, my soul, it's in my soul. How many people would have pointed up here? My soul's up here. Jonah, very good. You've been to my classes. Okay, so does anyone remember this 1980s sci-fi series called V? Like the Visitors? Remember that? And then they made a remake in the 2000s. Well, so the visitors are coming in from out of space and they want to enslave us, take over, the world. So again, if you like sci-fi like I do, I love V. And Diana, do you remember Diana, the high commander of the visitors, sent a sleeper, this is the newer version, sent a sleeper agent to the Vatican to learn more about human emotions. Right? You want to take over the world, send a sleeper agent to the Vatican and learn about human emotions. So what did Diane learn? Diane, the high commander of the visitors, learned about the soul. That's what makes people special, the soul. If you want to take over the world, you need to control the human soul, right? It's what is Satan? You're going to sell your soul to the devil. What does that even mean? So Diana learns that learns about the soul, and the visitors considered the soul a threat to their taking over. So she starts dissecting humans. Okay, so this is not real life, but in the show, she starts dissecting humans to find their soul. I don't know. As a rabbi, I was fascinated by this idea. Like she's going to find where the soul is so she can surgically remove the soul. She does fail. She doesn't, it just gets very messy. And, but the idea is, we ask ourselves, if we believe in a soul, where is it? Where does it reside? All her test subjects died. So I asked the question, is it here or here, heart or the head? The Talmud 2,000 years ago asked the same question. It says, it didn't really ask where the soul resides. That's more of a modern question. I'm not so sure what the term soul means. It changes over time. But here's one, Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. Perhaps the evil inclination and the good inclination, Yetzer Hara, Yetzer HaTov, our inclination is our soul. So Midrash Rabbah, famous Midrash, famous commentary, Midrash Rabbah 34:10 says, Harasha hein bereshut liban avel tzadikim liban bereshatan. I'll say that in English. The evildoer is controlled by his heart. Evil is controlled by the heart, but the righteous control their heart. Does anyone remember the stories of Pharaoh? I guess we just had that silly holiday, or we're still in it, Indigestion City, and God bless it. I love when people say they love this holiday. Yeah, I don't believe you. You've just been taught you're supposed to love this holiday. Terrible holiday. But this holiday is all about the Exodus from Egypt. And in the Exodus from Egypt, we have the 10 plagues. And in the 10 plagues, you have Pharaoh. And what does God do to Pharaoh? God hardens Pharaoh's heart. Did anyone feel like that was cheating? Right? Like, yeah, is it really fair? Like, is it a fair test of fair plagues if God hardens Pharaoh's heart? Like Moses says, let my people go. And God hardens Pharaoh's heart, and Pharaoh says, no, it's not yet. It doesn't seem quite fair. Now, Bernice and I have talked about this. It's a sermon I've been writing for a few years. I have not found a way to give it on the high holidays yet. But the concept of the rabbis look at the heart as fickle. The rabbis say, do not follow your heart. The heart can mislead you. Yeah, and a lot of the shows, that I mistakenly turn on at night, Love Island. Yeah, the hearts are not good. You don't follow your heart. Hearts can mislead you. Heart is fickle. So you follow your logic, your intellect. The rabbis felt the evil came from the heart. Goodness came from up here. It's kind of the opposite of a lot of us how we're taught in American films and television. So don't follow your heart. Your soul is not there. It's in your head. Put a pin in that. We're going to go back. We're going to get back to the head being where your soul is. We're going to save it for a moment. I want to take off for a second because there is a lot about the soul. I've been going around it because I could have started with it. I've talked a lot about the soul in the past. And usually it's when I'm talking about life after death, reincarnation, resurrection, and cremation. Because the Talmud, in 2,000 years ago, the Talmud talks about the soul and the body, or that is the soul in the body, or is it separate from the body? The Talmud made no separation between the body and the soul. We've talked about this many times in many different classes, because this is going to lead to all of our issues with cremation, autopsies, embalming, organ donation. If the body and the soul are not separate, then if you die and you have no body, you have no soul. And by the way, what are we using soul to mean? Life after death, something separate from the body that lives on. That thing, not the thing that makes us who we are, that's part of it, but that lives on after we die. Maimonides. No class is complete without Maimonides. It's a Maimonides alert if I was David Letterman. Yeah. Okay, here it goes. Maimonides. What does Maimonides say? The complete soul, or nefesh, he uses the term nefesh, right? The nefesh, the complete soul, is coexistent with the physical body. They coexist and is not separate from it. The body and the soul are one and the same. The soul has 5 functions, namely nutrition, sensitivity, which includes the 5 senses, imagination, appetite, and rationality. But so what Maimonides says is the body and the soul are one and the same. Now, some midrash, some commentary says that the body and soul are partners. They're not together, but they're partners. The soul is a guest in the body, which probably is the most popular form of the soul, is not that it's one and the same, the body and the soul, but that it's a guest in the body. And, it can shed the body. Kabbalah believes that, right? There's a whole thing. Any of us who studied the end of life, the Kabbalists have this whole thing about how the soul leaves the body at the end of life, and it's very painful. The Talmud, on the other hand, does not separate the body and the soul. Therefore, the immortality of the soul is connected to the body. And we have these 2 versions. When you study Judaism, there are 2 versions of life after death: the world to come and bodily resurrection. The world to come is some place I die, I'm in the ground, and I go to heaven. It's the world to come. My doggies are waiting for me, and grandparents are waiting for me. I get to meet Abraham Lincoln, all that other good stuff. That is the world to come, Olam Haba. But then there's bodily resurrection. I die, I'm in the ground, I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. Okay, people can visit me, fine. The Messiah comes. Oh, let's get to Passover Seder. Elijah comes, he announces the Messiah comes, and then I roll underground, it's very dirty, and I sprout up like a flower in Israel. All right, that's bodily resurrection. Don Selig and I would always argue, God bless Don Selig, and that's another moment I always have to bring up Don. Don believed in bodily resurrection, I did not. But he really believed that, you come back in that body. So the Talmud agrees with Don. I'm more, I guess I'm a little more Kabbalistic in this case. But the Talmud believed that if you have no body, you have no soul. You do not move on. Ilan Ramon, I've talked about this many times over the years. Ilan Ramon was the Israeli astronaut. He was not going to, he was a national hero, right? He died on the space shuttle, right? They had a Torah on the space shuttle that, the disaster, except they were not going to give him a funeral unless they found his remains. Because if they don't find his remains, he doesn't get a funeral because he has no body and he doesn't get to move on. And you might say, well, that doesn't seem right fair. That's a little unfair. No one chose to burn up in the space shuttle. Don't even get me started on the Holocaust. But the rabbis didn't make the distinction whether it was done to you on purpose or by accident. It is what it is. If you have no body, if the soul and the body are one and the same and you burn up the body, you have no world to come. You're poop out of luck. So the idea is this is a problem. And this is what led to our issues with cremation, autopsies, embalming, organ donation, because everything had to go back into the ground so I can sprout up like a flower in Israel. Now, do I believe that? No. And if I want to call it the soul, I guess fine. You want to say that's my soul that lives on, burn up my body. I've talked my first month on the job here. I had a plane crash victim. All I had left was a small box of ashes. Do I believe they're cut off from the world to come because they died in a plane crash? It's one thing, let's punish the cremation people. But what about a person who didn't choose, right? And the rabbis did not make that distinction. So I believe in the immortality of the soul, and that's separate from the body. Kabbalah gets a little crazy when it comes to souls. They actually believe that there was a limited number of souls. Now, remember, Kabbalah started a long time ago. There weren't as many people, so I don't think they could do how they would have done the math. But they believe that you would reuse the souls. That souls would be reused, as in reincarnation, right? Yeah, I don't believe in this stuff, but some people do. The past lives thing. Kabbalah believes in past lives. Right? If you're a bad person, you come back as a rock. If you're a good person, you come back as a baby. But the idea is that Jewish mysticism does have a belief in reincarnation, that you come back, that the souls are reused. I got a problem with that. We're going to get to it in a moment. We're getting close to the end of my spiel. But I have a problem with the past lives concept. It just, my problem is I believe each soul is separate. So how do you reuse a soul? But because I believe that the soul is what makes us special, if I'm going to call it a soul. The first time I've discussed this many times, but it was many years ago. It was at Buddy Minsky's funeral. I don't know if you remember Buddy. So Buddy was a friend of mine, and he came to services, and he wanted to fly me on an airplane, and no way I was getting on an airplane with him. And so he wasn't driving much either. But and Buddy's funeral, his 5-year-old grandson was asking me all these questions. It was at Shiva, I was at his house, and he's what is my phone going crazy? Oh, it's Amy. Okay, so so I'm at the Shiva, and I'm with this 5-year-old because they are much more interesting than adults. And the 5-year-old grandson is like, what's a soul? What moves on? We just buried grandpa. And so I said, well, it's what makes us special. It's something you don't see. It's inside of us. So the kid's it's like air inside of a bubble, and the bubble pops and the air is released. I'm like, well, that's good. He's like, it's a treasure chest. He's like, I've been using all this stuff since then. It's like a treasure chest. And what's important is not the chest, it's the treasure inside it. And I go, sounds good. So this kid was really very good. Now he's probably 25 years old. But, it's this idea that the soul is what makes us special. It's something we don't see. But that it's inside each one of us. For me, now we're getting to my view. For me, the soul is our memories. I believe our memories are our souls. If I wanted to say what makes me special is my memories. It's what my memories are my memories. Your memories are your memories. And those are what makes us who we are. Good memories and bad memories make me who I am. To lose our memories is to lose who we are, to lose our soul. Yeah, but I do believe they're waiting for us on the other side. I do believe they're eternal. It's beyond the body. And so one of the questions is, what does stay with us throughout our lives? Yeah, if the soul is our constant, we're born with it and it stays with us. Anyone ever hear of this? This is something I when I studied this in philosophy, yeah, it really kind of changed me. It's called the ship of Theseus. Ever hear of this one? Just shake your head. No one. Saw one head, maybe nod. Okay, it's also known as Theseus's paradox, and it's a thought experiment that raises the question of whether an object that has all of its components replaced remains fundamentally the same object. It was a ship. Okay, there was a ship once upon a time, and that ship was restored over time. Every plank, every board, every mast, every sail over time, over hundreds of years, was replaced. And yet it remained the same ship. You'd still call it the Plutarch or something like that, but it was this Greek ship. But the question was, is it the same ship if over time, every single piece is replaced? Right? Yeah. On the first, it had a little chip in the side, and you replace that and replace this. And over hundreds of years, every single board, every single piece, every nail in this ship is replaced. But it remains the same ship. You still call it the same ship. It wasn't like it was burnt up and they built a new one, just over time. Well, guess what? You could say the same thing about human beings. That we, our cells, I don't know. I don't look the same as I did 20 years ago. It's not just the hair, but the idea is that we don't have the same bodies as we did when we were 8 years old, or 8 months old, or 80 years old. That over time, piece by piece, we too are replaced, and yet there's a constant within us. When a person ages, our soul is constant. So here it is. I was looking up, and from a surgical oncologist, every cell in my body gets replaced over 7 years. Will I still be me in 7 years' time? If the body renews every 7 years, are people still the same person they were 10 years ago? The philosophical question is, you're not the same physical person, as your body is constantly being replaced as cells die. So if it's not my body that makes me who I am, because it changes, it gets replaced, the ship of Theseus, then the soul is the constant. It's what I take with me throughout my life. And I'm kind of a big John Locke fan, philosopher, 1690s. I told Amy as I was preparing for this class, I go, John Locke stole my idea. She's like, I don't think that's possible, honey. I said, well, I said it before I read John Locke, but so John Locke wrote an essay called Concerning Human Understanding, okay, in 1690. According to Locke's memory theory, a person's identity only reaches as far as their memory extends into the past. In other words, one who one is critically depends on what one remembers. Thus, as a person's memory begins to disappear, so does his identity. I mentioned sci-fi. You ever see these shows where they download their memories into a robot, right? And the idea that, or the rich people download it into another human being, right? And you might be in a different body, but it's you, right? Oh, it's my grandfather. It's Walt Disney. He's frozen somewhere. But we also have diseases that take our memories away, like Alzheimer's. And when I deal with a family who deals with Alzheimer's, and I deal with that a lot, I sometimes refer to this as slowly. I say your soul is slowly leaving the body. Actually, that's what I usually say. I say, I believe that when it comes to Alzheimer's, your soul is slowly leaving the body. It's not disappearing. It's just, so the body is still there sometimes. The soul has moved on. I get hit by a car. I walk outside, get hit by a car. Boom, my soul and body move on at the same time. But I believe that the soul can move on before the body. I actually believe that's part of the Alzheimer's concept. So therefore, when I move on to the next world, I am complete. I am whole. my memories are whole. My memories are there waiting for me. And why I said this about where it lies, and so therefore for me, memories lie up here, and the soul lives up there. I have a problem with past lives or the losing of memories, or something where there's two people in one person. Do you remember that another movie, Heaven Can Wait? You remember the Heaven Can Wait movie? I hate that movie. No, actually, I love that movie, but I hate the ending. Does anyone remember the end of Heaven Can Wait? So he's a football player, Los Angeles Rams, actually, and he's going to be a quarterback, and he gets, he's taken to heaven by accident, so they have to put him in different bodies. It's a comedy. Warren Beatty's in it, and at the end, the quarterback at the Super Bowl gets hit and he dies on the field, but no one knows he's dead except for the angel next to him. He's like, okay, he just died. Do you want to be him? I'll put your soul into that quarterback and you'll become him. And so he's like, I'm giving away the end of the movie, but it was in the 1979 movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry. So he says, well, yeah, put me in there. So he put me in, coach. So he sticks the dead guy's soul into this quarterback. The quarterback jumps up, wins the Super Bowl. Everyone's happy. And he's at the end and he's getting interviewed by the reporter who fell in love with the original guy. And he's like, did we meet each other before? It's very, deja vu-ish. And he can play the saxophone. And that means that it's the same guy. And they love each other. I'm like, but what happened to the dead guy's soul? I had a problem with this movie because in a way he replaced, the guy who he went in, what happened to his original soul? Because for me, he has new memories. He's no longer the person he was, that he took over someone else's life. Any movie like that, and there's a lot of movies like that, bother me because I believe that souls are memories that you don't just replace. And the past lives concept is they disappear. So for me, the soul is what makes us who we are and is that eternal part of us and is separate from the body. And therefore, it does move on. And whether I have a body or not, I could be burned up in a plane crash. I still move on. And I'm okay with that. So that's for me what soul is based on my study of Judaism and philosophy. And it's 7:32. So questions and comments and your own opinions and disagreements. What do you think about the soul? What movie did you see that is better? All right. So what do you got, Marilyn? Take it away.
There was a movie a couple of years ago called Coco.
Okay.
And they had pictures of the ancestors. And the idea was that as long as somebody remembered them, they were still not really gone. So when one of the things that you said sounded very much like that. With the memories.
It's funny. So I'm talking about our own memories, but you're right. I thought about Coco because when I was on vacation, someone mentioned that movie. It was actually at a poker table. I was in London. I was at a poker table in London and someone mentioned Coco. And I thought to myself, I keep saying that our memories live on, but there is another way. And that's by the way, that's like the Day of the Dead. Coco was a South American concept. But the idea is that when I moved to Pittsburgh, I used to do this thing before every Mourner's Kaddish. I don't know if you remember. I still do it every now and then. The soul lives on, and we are not dead, kind of thing. And one of the congregants got mad at me, and they're still mad at me, but 20 years later. And they haven't dropped out. God bless them. But they come up to me and they're like, "Rabbi, you're saying it wrong. We live through someone else's memories. We don't actually live on." I'm like, "No, I believe we live on." And like, no, you're wrong, Rabbi. we only live through others' memories. And I thought that it's fascinating that she really did not like my answer. But I'm sticking to it. But Marilyn, that Coco concept I find fascinating, right? That we help them live on. By the way, very Jewish. That like saying Mourner's Kaddish. In a way, the Coco thing is like our Mourner's Kaddish. We say Mourner's Kaddish to keep them alive. 20, 30, 40 years later, we say Kaddish. My only problem with that scenario is, unless you're Shirley Stolzer, who took every single relative's, you should have seen her Yortzeit list. Before she passed, she had a list because everyone who died, she took on their Yortzeit list. No one took on Shirley's list, by the way. But the idea is that eventually, unless you're Abraham Lincoln, like in Coco, most of us are not going to have, no, I don't want to scare anyone, but most of us are not going to be Abraham Lincoln, and we're not going to have a day in our memory. But it is something, and that, of course, that scares me. But the Coco idea is that we don't forget our loved ones. Yeah, it's very nice. Next, more questions, concerns, Jews, non-Jews. Neil, hit us. And then Susie, Neil, Susie.
I got so many questions.
Well, you picked the topic.
That's true. So the first thing is, I've been told the soul enters the body when you're born.
Yes.
So I'd like to comment on that. And then also, I've always felt that to me, it's not memories, it's your ability to be sentient that I think is the quality of the soul. What separates us from, I think, and this would mean that Fluffy doesn't have a soul.
Right.
The thing is that I think that we're sentient and animals aren't. So, that to me is the difference, and I'd be interested in your comment on that.
So when it comes to right before you're born, certainly there is a Kabbalistic idea that God puts a soul. We also have this, your soulmate is also picked, right? The Beshert, your soulmate is chosen. We also have this idea, by the way, that an angel touches you right here and you forget everything, right? Memories. You forget everything. You spend your whole life trying to get all that knowledge. Now that's more about knowledge. And then at the end of life, when you join heaven, you get all the knowledge you're missing. So there is an idea that you put God puts the soul, again, you're born with a soul, a good soul or bad soul. Now, Judaism does not say that. You're born with a clean soul. You get to screw it up yourself. But there is usually an idea in Kabbalah that God places a soul in your body before you're born. The second part, sentient, I agree with you, by the way. I gave a sermon on all dogs go to heaven. I did skip over that for a second. The all dogs go to heaven sermon that I gave on the high holidays once was the idea that Fluffy is in heaven. If Fluffy is my dog, and Fluffy's in my memories, and I bring Fluffy along in my heaven. But Fluffy does not have his own heaven. So Fluffy doesn't have his own soul. Fluffy is part of my soul. So I agree that the Jewish view is that dogs don't go to heaven, or my dog goes to heaven with me, but not on its own merit. And so the idea of being sentient, having that intelligence of life, that makes us different than animals, is important to the rabbis as well. So they would agree with you that Fluffy does not go to heaven. Fluffy doesn't have a soul. Fluffy is only there for my purposes. Yeah, I know any PETA people here who, it's Judaism does not believe that animals are just for our purposes. They're not their own. They're there to serve us. So that's so yes, the soul comes into the body before you die, before you're born, and then you have to return it when you're done. And dogs don't go to heaven. I mean, their own heaven. Susie, what do you got? Unless you're talking about Fluffy. Okay.
No, yeah, thank you. So this is following on Marilyn's comment. I love the movie Coco, and actually know the guy who was the executive director from when we lived in San Francisco. So it was definitely very relevant for us, and then I happen to love it as well. But in any case, I happened to see on Facebook today that a friend from Columbus, her family was written about or talked about in a CNN story where they were talking about, as part of the Passover Seder, they mentioned in terms of, feeling like, we were slaves in Egypt, that they actually mention the names of family members who have passed away, to sort of, bridge the gap, something along those lines, maybe a way of remembering. And I'd never heard of that practice before. So it's less about the soul, but it's topical because it's Passover. And I just wondered, is that a common practice? Like, do other people, and they said that it's very powerful to say the name out loud of those who've passed away. And it just reminded me of Coco in terms of if someone continues to say the name, that they're keeping that person, I don't know if it's alive, but something.
Marilyn, then me.
Well, I was just going to say, Yizkor is part of the last day of Passover. So in that sense, you're not doing it at the Seder, but you are doing it during Passover.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Yeah, if you think about it, usually I always warn people about Thanksgiving when someone dies, right? The empty chairs at the empty tables, right? There's an empty seat, where grandpa used to sit or something. And, and some people like or Yellowstone, right? No one can sit in mom's seat, kind of thing. So I think that is powerful. I mean, I have to say, I don't think it's so Passover-ish. I've never heard that before, but remembering loved ones, I mean, when I explain to non-Jews about Passover, I always call Passover the Christmas tree of the Jews, because you just can't get that Christmas tree out of, a good Christian, and it's usually not because of Jesus or religion, because it's family. It's those family memories. And for us, it's Passover Seders. That's why it's the most observed ritual in all of Judaism is the Passover Seder. So, and I think it's because of family. Like the Christmas tree, I think it's not about a tree that leaves bugs in your house, but I think it's the family part to it. So I kind of love the idea of remembering, of saying names. I think it is Coco-ish a little. By the way, you get to meet the executive director of Coco.
Yeah, his name is Lee Unkrich, and he's from Chagrin Falls, outside of Cleveland.
Oh, Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah, and he met his wife at URJ camp when they were kids, and they live in the Bay Area. Yeah.
My in-laws, all we know is the American Pie director, but that's not, I can't quote that as much in sermons. So, all right. So more questions, souls, remembering Passover. Okay, Neil, your hand's raised. Hit me.
Oh, so I've been most influenced by the guy who wrote all the murder mysteries. The rabbi did this.
On Wednesday, the rabbi slept in. Yeah.
Susie, honestly, they're the books to read to become a great president of a synagogue. So, he talks in his books that to me, it's a very kind of 60s thing. The idea that we're remembered by other people, and that's the soul. I've never liked that idea at all. I just think that is such like a a kind of a new age type of thing. It's always bothered me. I'd like to think that the soul is something more than the memories of others. And I don't think that is traditional Judaism. I think that's more, to me, something that popped up in the Reform movement.
That you might be right. If I had to ask, it's kind of like when someone says, "Oh, and playing a guitar in services is not traditional." When the original service, as in the Holy Temple, had guitars, so you can't get much more traditional than the Holy Temple. But certainly today, guitars are modern. So the question, it's like the chicken and the egg. So when that congregant said that to me, right? The congregant has said, "How dare you, Rabbi, say dead people are walking around? Grandpa is sitting here next to me watching, Grandpa is sitting next to me, not just my memory of my grandpa." So is that modern? It's an interesting thing. You're right. You're probably right. That is more modern and probably is Reform, only because Reform, did move away from traditional ideas like bodily resurrection, or they focused. It was a very this worldly movement when it started. So you might be right, but I don't know who created the idea that we only live through the memories. But then again, the Kabbalist, that mourner's Kaddish thing. Have you ever heard this one? My saying the mourner's Kaddish helps my loved one's soul. I skipped over this part because it was just, I hate it. But
Oh, I've heard that.
I hate it, but it's part of it's part of Kabbalistic Judaism, and it's what we do today. I just don't tell people the whole 11 months of Kaddish. Why not 12 months? Well, because there's these levels of heaven, seventh heaven. Remember the 7 levels of hell and heaven. Anyone who took my Kabbalah class, and that by saying Mourner's Kaddish, we move that our loved one's soul through like the stages of heaven and hell. And that, that if we don't say it, right, it's a little heavy-handed. If we don't say it, they're in a lot of trouble. So, yeah, so there is this idea that, my memory of my loved one keeps them alive. Coco-ish, a little Coco-ish. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's our next movie we're doing at Beth.
Coco? I think it would be a hit, especially if we could discuss it afterwards. Yeah, I think that would be a hit. Just don't do it at 9:00 at night. All right. So,
Rabbi Alex, I have a question going off of that.
This
okay.
is my younger soul.
Yes.
Oh.
So, okay, if innately, based upon that, you need to have others say a prayer for you, right? Does this mean that you're almost forced into being selfless and that you have to form connections and that you have to leave something behind?
Say it again. I wasn't ready for your square. I was too busy trying to figure out where you were talking from. Okay, say it one more time.
If in order to have your soul live on, you need to have others say this prayer. You need to be remembered in some form or fashion. So does this mean innately that we have to be selfless and we have to form connections with others in that point of view, and that we cannot be anything for ourselves, but only exist because of others?
It's funny. First of all, I don't agree with that concept, but if I did believe in it, then you would have to spend your whole time exactly trying to get others to remember you. I think that's a kind of a waste of time, because again, eventually you're going to be forgotten. I'm going to be forgotten, no matter how nice I am, how selfless I am. I'm probably not going to have a street named after me. I will be forgotten one day. So by the way, I agree. Did you ever see the show, The Good Place?
I've watched.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right. So The Good Place is you want to go to heaven, but if you do something, and back to your question, if you do something just to get into heaven, you don't get into heaven. So it's like this paradox, right? You can't win, because if you're good just for the sake of being good, but once you know if you're good in heaven, then you can never really be truly good without trying, like I'd be trying to live on, right? Yeah. So are you truly selfless? If you're selfless to be remembered, then you're not selfless. You're selfless for yourself. It's selfishly selfless. So I think it's a problem if my soul is based on other people's memories. I think that's going to be a problem eventually, or right away. So it's a good question. I do think there's a problem there. I agree. More comments. Let's see, questions, comments. Sue Ellen, hit us. You can reach, or you want me to unmute? There
I
you
got
go.
it. Okay, so I got 2 comments. One comment, one statement. I don't know. So the first one is kind of a addition to your animal thing. You said animals are here for us type thing. Okay,
That's what the rabbis say. Go
yeah,
on.
but we have to be kind to them.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not allowed to take a limb from them. So that's it for the animal thing. The other thing was I was talking to somebody. I guess we were talking about kind of what we thought happened after we died type thing, and I said that I thought we went to our relatives and stuff, and they said, okay, right. And I said, but you got to think. So you see your parents see their parents, they see their parents. So I'm like, so does that kind of mean we're going all the way back to Adam and Eve? Do we get to meet Adam and Eve? Like, how far back do we go? And they thought it was creepy to think that.
So I don't know how creepy it is. Number one, the animal thing, just to explain the rabbi's thinking from 2,000 years ago, they didn't really like animals. Yeah, it's does anyone watch Stiesel? I know I watch too much stuff. Everyone see Stiesel? You remember the scene where he brings the dog home? the kid got kicked out of yeshiva. The reason the kid got kicked out of yeshiva is he found this stray dog and he brought the dog into the yeshiva, and the headmaster kicked the kid out, and he calls the grandfather. Everyone's a rabbi. Calls the rabbi calls the rabbi and says, I kicked your kid out. He had a dog. Oh my God, a dog. Orthodox, really right-wing, strict Orthodox don't believe in dogs. What was the line? He says, and he's like, the line? He goes, yes. And they said this like a few times. The old story. If you see a Jew with a dog, either it's not a Jew or it's not a dog. And the idea is like, they're dirty and all. And then he lost the dog. It was very sad. But the idea is for traditional Judaism, the reason you're kind to animals is because if you're kind to animals, so much more so you'll be kind to humans. Like if you're nice to an animal, it was supposed to teach us to be kind to humans. However, I know a lot of people are nicer to animals than humans. The Nazis were known to be pretty good to animals, not so great for humans. Number two is Bernice still remembers my story about Bob. In my heaven, that Bob is my friend and he dies, but Bob can't stand me, so I'm in Bob's heaven. But the idea is that each of us have our own heavens. So Sue Ellen, your concept is what I said was my parents were waiting for me, my grandparents are waiting for me. But their heavens might not, what if they can't stand me? So then that would be hell for them, an eternity with me, right? So the idea is that you could see Adam and Eve in yours, but Adam and Eve is part of someone else's heaven. So I don't combine, in my view of heaven, different class, but in my view of heaven, I believe it's individualized. So it's my heaven, Fluffy. Let's go to Fluffy. So Fluffy, now my dogs were Erev and Chaim growing up. Erev and Chaim are waiting for me on the other side. But I couldn't stand my parents' dog, or something. But Cujo is not on the other side waiting for me. Right? So yeah, I believe heaven is individualized to the point where only the people your memories. If I had memories of Adam and Eve, now I guess you could visit Adam and Eve. I think it's a short, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump. But it's the idea is that, I don't think it's not, you're right. There's no end to it. If it's my parents and grandparents, yes, it would be Adam and Eve. So, all right. These are good questions. All right, more. Wait, Irv, go ahead. You want me to unmute you? Here, I got you. Oh, wait. Oh, now you unmuted you. That's me. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. If somebody's married, their spouse dies.
Yes.
They then remarry.
Yes.
Their second spouse dies. When they die, whose heaven do they go to?
Yes. Don't ask. No. By the way, you could also say whose plot do they buried in? It gets messy out there in the real world too. I've seen it all. I just saw a really great blended family. It was probably the most beautiful blended family I've ever dealt with. But just recently in the last few months. But I would say that, I guess you could have two wives waiting. If I've been married 3 times and actually liked all 3 of them, then I guess, all 3 of them are on the other side. By the way, notice that when I say they're waiting for me, they could also be alive and be waiting for me. I know not everyone's going to like this idea, but if I die young, it's not like I'm living there by myself for 20 years waiting for someone to show up. I do believe that our loved ones, even the ones we're living with now, are in our next world. Again, I know it doesn't speak that everyone has a different life after death, but so if you loved all 3 of your wives, I guess all 3 of them are there. But I don't know if they all agree with that. They might have, but maybe all 3 of them don't have you in theirs. Right. And Irv, I'm not talking about you, obviously. But But that you in my version of heaven, I could have 3 wives waiting for me, and they don't have me in theirs. Yeah, because fine. All right, good. It's a little. Your head's gonna fall off if you think too much about my heaven. Okay, a bunch of ashes. I see. You both raised your hand at the same time.
Yes. So what happens to the soul of someone who is considered evil?
So Judaism. Okay, so I grew up in the 80s with the Cold War, and I was always afraid of dying because I thought, they're going to drop a bomb on us, and now I have young people thinking that again. So it's a welcome to the club. But the idea was that, my fear was not going to hell. I wasn't a great kid, but my fear was ceasing to exist, because growing up in Orthodox yeshiva and Judaism, evil people don't suffer for eternity. Evil people cease to exist. And the ceasing to exist was scarier to me than hell. Like, my wife always thinks it's funny because, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take over hell. It's like, what was that line? I'd rather be on my, I'd rather run hell than a slave in heaven or something. Okay. So I think that was Lucifer. But the idea is that,
Paradise Lost, I think.
What's that?
I think from Paradise Lost.
It is Dante. Okay. So, but the idea here is that, that evil people don't move on. And that doesn't sound so bad to people who believe in hell, but for those of us who don't believe in hell, that scared me more than anything. I cried myself to sleep every night in the 80s when I thought the world would end, because the concept of ceasing to exist is so scary to me. That's why, if you saw The Good Place, the very last episode of The Good Place, and if you're watching it, close your ears for a second, but the very last episode of The Good Place, the very last second of The Good Place really bothered me. I had trouble sleeping last night thinking about The Good Place's ending, because the whole concept was eternity was horrible, because you lose all sense of self in the eternity. So you choose to cease to exist. So it's the answer is that evil people don't move on. So Hitler, as much as I'd like to see Hitler, I don't know, die 6 million times or tortured, in my heaven and hell, he ceases to exist. That's the punishment. He doesn't get to, move on to even to hell. We don't have hell.
Then I would ask as a follow-up question, what determines if someone is evil, and by what lens? Because if you could say that you were doing something that we would consider evil, but for a positive benefit.
Right. That was another class your dad picked, what is good. I'd say the simple answer in Judaism is that you get what you've given. So that heaven is what you made of, heaven is your life given back to you. So if you've done good or tried to do good, try to give, you get. But if you took, then that's what you get. So if you killed 6 million people, you get to be killed 6 million times. So it is kind of a karma-ish kind of thing. But the idea is that you made your own heaven, made your own bed. So the idea is, it's not going to. We might say, well, that's good, that's bad, that's evil, right? And because it's a trap. If I tell you what is good or bad, you're going to tell me that in Rome, sleeping with little boys was good, or murdering in some societies is good. I murdered this person to save a lot of people. But in Judaism, the traditional Jewish form of heaven and hell would be, or who gets there is you get what you've been given. So if you tried to do good, did good, gave back, you get back what you've been given. So I guess then it won't be up to one of us. It's what we've given to our lives, what we put out there.
My last question on existence. So then what is the state that the soul or mind, whatever, is in before birth and before the conception?
And that's so
pre-eternal existence or whatever.
So so Kabbalah, and I'm not a Kabbalist, believes that the souls, the well of souls, was made before creation, and that God is putting these souls. This is what your dad mentioned, this idea that the soul is placed in the body. I don't actually believe this. I believe we create our own souls, that there is no soul before we're born. I don't believe in this whole touching thing and all this stuff I mentioned. So I don't have this soul that's put in my body, and like it was waiting there or it's existed. I don't believe the soul existed before the body, but Kabbalistically, that is the idea that the soul, like it's a conveyor belt and like put a soul in, right? What the movie that just came out, Soul, I think was like that or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Terrible Disney movie. But yeah, I didn't like it. So do not show that movie, Neil. All right.
I
So
won't show that
No.
movie.
Coco's okay. All right.
You don't believe your wife is your soulmate and that your souls were bound when you were born?
No. I love my wife, but I don't believe in soulmates. No, it's it's like our question about, what's our purpose in the world. I'll tell you when I'm done. Like everyone's looking for the purpose. I say, your purpose after you hit it. My wife is my soulmate because I'm with my wife. But if I didn't flunk out of business school, I probably would have a different soulmate. Because I wouldn't have gone to rabbi school, and there's a very good chance I would not have met my wife if I didn't go to rabbi school. So yeah, I don't. God bless Disney. I believe there's a lot of soulmates out there. Yeah, I don't believe.
Your wife went to flunk out of rabbi school, gone to business school, met you.
That's
Everything would have been happily ever after.
in every single Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan movie. That's exactly what would have happened. But I don't believe that. No. I think that you'll meet someone else and be very happy. It's multiverse more than Bashert. All right. Carol, I see your hand raised. Sorry, here we go.
What about? Tell you what it was. Do you want me to type it in?
Sure, type it in. All right, Bernice, did I see your hand up? Let's see. I'm gonna come to you. There we go.
Thanks. I'm sort of along the same lines as the Ashes, and I'm not sure which Ash that is because you've changed so much since I've seen you. Who are you?
I'm Adam.
Oh, okay, Adam. I was going to guess that. Okay. So
You'd be 50% chance.
right. So that the song that Rabbi Amy loves to sing, Elohai Neshama Shana Tata Bi. So our soul is pure.
Right.
So everybody's soul is pure. Hitler's
Yeah.
soul is pure, and it's unchanging. If our bodies completely change like the ship throughout our lives, our soul never changes. All of our experiences don't change or shape our soul. I'm just fascinated by this.
So the way I would listen to that song, that God put this soul in me and it's pure, is I agree, right? We're born pure. We're not born good or evil. We're born clean, and then we can screw it up. Then we can make it dirty. So when I hear that song, I don't think to myself, I'm 40, well, I'm a lot of age. I'm 50 something years old and, my soul is still clean. Yeah. I'm like, my soul was clean. Yeah. And God put the soul that God put in me. And again, not the Kabbalah thing where my soul was taken out of the pre-existence, but I was born with a clean slate, with a pure soul. I think everyone is born with a clean slate. And don't ask Sarah Zuckerman. She and I, actually, we kind of agree in the whole, do we have free will? Do we really have free will to do anything we want? Some people are born with a silver spoon, but the idea is that I do believe the soul is pure inside, but then what we do with it is up to us. So I never read it as it's still pure. It was, it was pure. Elohai Neshama Shana Tata Bi, that put into me. Yeah, Tohorahi. Yeah, I love that song. It's good with the drums. It's very good with the drums. So, but I read that as it started off pure, that my soul. But then it's up to me, and you can clean it too. We had a whole thing about that was recent in one of the newest sermons. All right. The question. What about we met each other at Mount Sinai? Yes, it's a dating app, by the way. I met you at Sinai. It's an Orthodox J-date. But yeah, the idea that, right, that we met each other at Sinai, that all Jews were at Sinai, and then when someone converts, they're at Sinai. Amy and I were holding hands on Mount Sinai. Yeah, God bless it. I think we're all related, but I don't think we're all Mount Sinai. Have you ever talked about angels? Many times. By the way, angels, the problem is the term angels today, like in the movies, I die and I become an angel, is not the Jew. There's angels in the Torah, and they're the hands of God. They existed at the beginning of creation. God's talking to someone. God's talking to angels. God wants to talk to Abraham. Angel. God wants to kill little babies in the 10th plague. Angel of death. Still God. Angels have no free will. They're the hands of God. Dead. I do believe dead people move on. Like I said, my grandpa is sitting here with me. I don't call him an angel. So I call that, my loved ones live on. The soul lives on. But I separate that from the word angels. The word angel in Judaism is a messenger of God, is a hand of God. It's not dead people. Dead people can live on, but they're not angels. They can help God. They could also be God's helpers, but not angels. By the way, the difference is angels have no free will. People do. That's according to Judaism. Angels have no free will according to Judaism. So it's except the movies, angels in the outfield. All right, good. 8:05. Any more questions? I'm looking around. Got pretty good. Neil, hit us. Okay.
All right. So you don't believe in free will. We had our free will discussion.
It's right. I don't want to get too far into it, but I do not believe everyone
Right.
has the same chance.
Then it was Bashirat that you would meet your wife.
No, I don't believe that.
Arranged for you
No.
to flunk out of business school.
No.
So you go to rabbi school. So you
No.
go meet your wife.
No, I don't believe that.
You were foreordained to meet your wife.
No, I do not believe any of that. No. First of all, Sharon Zuckerman and I, we talk about the idea that we don't have free will. When I say we don't have free will, it's that, when I was born, I had some options in front of me, but not the same options as someone else. And there's a lot of people who are born with a lot less options than I had. I messed up a lot as a child, I made a lot of mistakes. Now, of course, they also didn't have Ritalin. And so, that some of it's not my fault. But the idea is, when I say we don't have free will, when I say we don't have free will, is that not everyone has the same chances to do that. A lot of us, people who are born in the wrong place at the wrong time, don't have the same chances that someone else does. So that's what I mean by free will. Now, meeting my wife, everything worked out perfectly for me to meet my wife. And yet, I don't believe that was preordained. I mean, I needed everything to work out perfectly to be where I am. I'm lucky. Just ask my wife. I'm lucky, but I'm the luckiest man in the whole world. But I'm lucky. I don't think I deserved it. But I also don't think it's preordained. That it's more. And if my wife likes to ask this question, she doesn't do it to me anymore because she knows it drives me crazy. What if you were born to someone else? I said, then I wouldn't be me. It doesn't. I don't really believe you can be born to someone else and say that's not a question I can really answer. So no, Neil, I don't believe in free will in that I don't think everyone has the same chances, even though I'm supposed to lie to you and say, oh, everyone has the same chances. I don't believe that. And number two is I don't think everything's preordained. I think, and those of us who make it, I think we're lucky. We should be very thankful that we got where we are.
What determines the chances that you're born with? Is it just entirely random? But then in the idea of randomness, isn't randomness controlled by God?
I think that disease and cells and cancer and weather, I think is in some ways random, but as the longer we live, the more we learn that it's not so. Like we used to call weather acts of God. We still do, right? All these storms. But the longer we live, the more we learn about science, the more we understand that we have some say in how bad the weather is. It's not so random or so act of God. It is extreme weather somewhat the act of man. That you're young, Adam. I don't know which party you're a part of, but it's But the idea is that there are many people who now believe that and yes, I could be born with lots of diseases. But I don't think God picked it. I actually believe that when God made the world, creation, God made the world incomplete. So I believe in God, in that God made the world, but I think God made the world incomplete and left it for us to complete. I think all the bad stuff out there is the incomplete nature of creation, and it's our job to fix it. And when we talk about diseases or, losing hair, the worst thing that can happen to anyone, but our job is to find a cure. And I do believe the cure is out there. I'll be gone by the time they find it. But I do believe, like cancer, pretty bad. We all believe that they're going to find the cure for cancer one day. We'll all probably be gone, unfortunately. But we believe that the cure for cancer is out there somewhere.
Yes.
So I think that that's the way I look at all the bad stuff, and the randomness is that there was a lot left incomplete when God made the world.
So it gives you purpose, and then you can choose your destiny from there. Okay, because I agree with you overall.
Yeah.
I was trying to disprove something that my father was supporting.
But it gets even better. You just said it great. It gives you purpose. What if we cured everything? Then we'd lose all purpose. So maybe it's an unattainable goal as well. It's
utopian paradise, like Eden, you'd call it. But you don't progress anywhere. Right. You don't get anywhere. You exist for no real purpose because your existence would not have made a difference.
Right. It's a Twilight Zone thing, and then the 1950s show Twilight Zone. Most of them were based around the idea if you got everything you wanted, it would be hell. All right. So it's 8:11. You did good tonight. Our next Adult Dead is Wednesday morning, Wednesday night. Wednesday night is 9 Juice. Sunday morning is the intro. Wednesday morning is Talmud. Then we have more Adult Dead. What was the one after Monday? Sunday? Neil, what was the next one after that you mentioned?
Well, let's see. We have, Sarah is next week, the following weekend on the Torah. Then we have, Bernice, what do you got coming up too? When's the next first Monday?
May 2nd, because everybody needs to laugh. Hall of Fame comedians, Mel Brooks, etc. So please come and have a laugh with us, 12-1 on Zoom.
Nice. And Intro to Judaism is this Sunday at 10 a.m., I think.
Right. And then we have coming up in May, we have Faith with Jonathan Engler.
Right.
And he also is going to get me his thing for you to look at before then. And we also have our next great questions, which I believe is in June, is going to be how many sexes are there in Judaism? So
like trans stuff and all that. Yeah. Tough. That's a tough one. Yeah. So be nice to me on that one. All right. Okay. Very nice. Okay.
Thank you.
Go home, stay warm, watch for the snow. It's April 18th and it's going to snow tomorrow. All right.
When will the next first Mondays be, Bernice, in person? We don't know.
We don't know.
It's not going to be May 2nd.
No.
But that how many sexes are in Judaism? Unless something goes crazy with A, B, C, D, whatever, I'm going to do that one live and on Zoom. After Passover, all my classes will go live and on Zoom. I'm going to start moving live.
Is there a charge for Zoom first Mondays?
No, right, Bernice? No.
Do we charge people to come? No.
Okay, it's only if you eat the lunch.
No, right. Well, yeah, no, we're not live first Mondays yet either.
Okay, it never said that there wasn't a charge, and I don't know. It's like you just get used to things being a charge.
Yeah, we'll take your money,
I know that.
Just send your money. Was it Soupy Sales? Everyone go into your parents' wallet, take $1 and mail it to me. All right. God bless you. Thank you.